Hi, sports fans. How's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So, when the Big Ten began their expansion more than a decade ago, Rutgers was a willing participant in it. It made sense for Rutgers and the Big Ten to work together as the school that had the New York area market in their back pocket that they basically had what the Big Ten covered. Okay. While the university was looking for more financial security from one of the most powerful conferences in collegiate athletics. But as the Big Ten continues to steamroll from a financial standpoint, that does not necessarily mean that things are working out that way in Piscataway. Now, multiple media outlets have reported this week that Rutgers has a deficit of $78 million for the 2024-2025 school year. And this was the third time in the last 5 years that their deficit for that particular school year was north of $70 million. Overall, Rutgers is looking at a deficit of more than $500 million since they joined the Big Ten Conference. How did that happen? That is the $1 million question, no pun intended, that everybody wants to know. But at the end of the day, it's pretty simple from the standpoint that football and basketball at the collegiate level can be very lucrative sports when you are winning and when you know what you're doing. Right now, Rutgers is not a winning program, and they clearly don't know what they're doing. You look at the football program for Rutgers, and this is what all of these moves in realignment, revolve around. So Rutgers joined the Big Ten in 2014. During that time, or since that time rather, Rutgers has only won 8 games in a season once. That was their first year in the Big Ten. Okay. On top of that, Rutgers has never finished with a winning record within the Big Ten any season. No trips to the Big Ten championship game, no Big Ten championships, of course, and of course, no berths in the college football playoff. From a men's basketball perspective for the Scarlet Knights, okay, you go back to 2021 and 2022, we saw Rutgers make the NCAA tournament. That was it. Okay, a 10 seed in 2021, an 11 seed in 2022. That's been it for the Scarlet Knights. Okay, and if you're not going to like compete and win on the hardwood and on the gridiron, especially on Saturday afternoons, you are looking at an uphill battle, my friends. And like I said many moons ago, when Rutgers decided to join the Big Ten, they were just going to be there for the paycheck. And I keep saying this when it comes to football, Rutgers already had this moniker in the original Big East for football. They're basically a homecoming game for the big boys of the Big Ten. Okay. And speaking of the Big Ten, they have been and they will continue to be more than happy to use Rutgers for their own benefit, which is that New York media market when it comes time to negotiate television deals. Okay. The school's spending clearly has not allowed them to keep up with the Joneses in that league. Now, you can try to pretty this up any way you want to, okay? Fine. But Rutgers is never going to be a place where you're going to get 100,000 people in the stands to watch the Scarlet Knights play football. And when Rutgers does tend to have their bigger crowds, it's because they're hosting the likes of Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, who have alumni in the area, in the New York area, and they also travel as well, real well. So again, what did Rutgers expect to happen when they decided to join the Big Ten? Rutgers was a mediocre football team in the Big East. They've only finished 2 football seasons ranked since 1976. This is not a juggernaut football program that we're talking about here. Now, Rutgers athletic director Kelly Zinn is going to look to curb this current deficit. Good luck with that one while fundraising at the same time. So Zinn is going to have to sit up there and sell the boosters on the need for more money for them to try to keep up in the expanded Big Ten, which at the end of the day could just simply be a fool's errand. All right. Rutgers NIL program and what we are seeing right now in collegiate athletics, if your NIL program is not up to par, you're not going to be able to compete. And you look at this school, they cannot even keep the top high school players for football and basketball that are in that state. New Jersey is a very talent rich state, okay? They can't keep them home. So, and it's only been exaggerated since they joined the Big Ten. I mean, I go back for Rutgers basketball, Rutgers men's basketball as an example. You think about their time in the Big East. You think about how many quality college basketball players came out of the state of New Jersey during that time. What happened? They went to bigger programs in the Big East Conference. Your UConns, your Syracuses at the time. And now, of course, they're going to bigger programs across the country, Big Ten included. All right. And the same can be said about football. So the getting the Big Ten's paycheck, that's great. Okay. But it also comes with a price. And you've got to know how to use your money wisely. If this were the NFL, Rutgers would be cutting players left and right, probably because of salary cap issues as well. But like the old saying goes in sports, it's better to be a bad and expensive team than a bad expensive one. And right now, Rutgers is a bad, expensive athletic program. So this right here just continues to show the growing gap between the haves and have-nots in college football, if you want to call it that, because guess what? Rutgers is getting a truckload of money from the Big Ten. Make no mistake about it. Can you imagine how bad that this would be for Rutgers if they weren't getting that Big Ten money? This is total irresponsibility by Rutgers, and it's not the first time that it happened. We see a lot of this irresponsibility by these schools across the nation, and what it comes down to is this: you go back to when your parents just simply gave you money. Most of us just spent the money because we didn't appreciate the value of it. It wasn't until you had to get up there and work for it that you appreciated the value. And this is what happens with a lot of these school administrators. They want more paychecks. They get bigger paychecks. They cry broke, okay, just so they can get to a bigger conference, and still they don't know how to manage the money. Remember when Maryland cried broke in the ACC and they begged their way into the Big Ten? You remember when UCLA was crying broke and basically they helped to destroy the original Pac-12 so they can get to the Big Ten? A lot of these schools are still running deficits because the people that are running things don't know how to manage money. Okay. It's one of those more than ever in collegiate athletics. You have to be financially sound. You have to have your NIL program on point. You have to have boosters with deep pockets, and you've got to get as much corporate sponsorship as possible. So, with all of that said, what are the chances that Rutgers is going to be able to get from under this mess that they helped to create? It's possible, but I'm not going to sit up there and hold my breath on it. We're seeing more corporate sponsorship in collegiate athletics, corporate sponsorships on fields. I would imagine there's going to be more corporate sponsorship at Rutgers home stadium, SHI Stadium. Pretty soon, believe it or not, we're going to get to the point where we're going to see corporate sponsorship on college uniforms. Okay, make no mistake about it. It's the new wave. It's basically free money, for some of these schools. And at the same time, it is free money when they don't know how to manage their money. But the fact that Rutgers is running this much of a deficit in arguably the most lucrative athletic conference in collegiate athletics, I think is embarrassing. Okay. There's no excuse for that. You have schools in the Sun Belt that would love to have a quarter of the budget that Rutgers has, and they would take it and run with it. Okay, this is just gluttony to its highest level, and there's no excuses for it. And honestly, I don't know about anybody else, but I cannot sit back and feel sorry for Rutgers' athletic program. It's just greed and irresponsibility. That's the best way to sum it up. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw in this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 pounds of sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to give you a follow right back. And that also goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 pounds of sports knowledge. Also, if you are on Facebook, definitely be sure to check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.